Why are we still optimistic about this Michigan State basketball team despite the success in recent history not being too great? And then a little bit of football for you in the middle. We talk Chimdy Onoh, Philipp Davis, the signing day coming up on Wednesday. And then at the end, hey, happy birthday, Tom Izzo, a little tribute to him at the end of the episode. I'm sure he won't miss it. Hey, make sure you don't either. Let's go.
Are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to today's show and starting your day with us here at the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Matt Sheehan, and I will be guiding you through a basketball sandwich here today. That's right, we're going to be doing hoops in segment 1, football in segment 2, and then rounding things out with talking Tom Izzo in segment 3 because, hey, he's a birthday boy. But before we get into any of that, that's right, gang. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment matter more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. All right, so last week, in 3 straight episodes, we talked about why we think that Michigan State can still make a deep run in March. Of course, it's not unheard of around these parts. Tom Izzo has only done it 8 times, getting himself to a Final Four. And that was 3 episodes after Michigan State lost to Indiana. Odd timing, I will admit, very odd timing for me to get on a soapbox and talk, hey, don't lose faith. This could still be a fun March. But there were some people that reached out, whether it be the YouTube comments or email, that were kind of like, just what the hell are you doing? Like, why are you talking like this, man? This is not that great of a season. Michigan State is in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten. It's not going well. And no one wrote an email more eloquently than, well, ironically enough, his name as well is Matthew. So this is going to be our email we're going to respond with to, all of the arguments that we've made of why this team can make a deep Final Four run. And really quick, I won't go through it all, in detail, but one of the best backcourts in the nation. Maybe we lost a little bit of stock on that in the last few games, but hey, when Hoggard and Walker are clicking, they're amazing. You can deploy that lineup with A.J. Hoggard, surround him with 4 3-point shooters. You got veteran leadership. You have great perimeter defense. And also, hey, Villanova just went to the Final Four last year playing a 6-man rotation. Who's to say Michigan State can't do the same? So that was kind of the points that we wanted to make out there. And then Matthew writes in this email. It's a little long. We'll go back to it and address it point by point. But he says, loved the pod. Oh, God, love the pod. Hope he's not done listening forever. But regardless, love the pod, but I'm just trying to understand the optimism around the basketball program and this year's team. We've made it to the Sweet 16 once since 2015. 2019 was great, but we can't have one run in 8 years for a program like MSU. Spare me the 2020 takes. They could have lost in the first round just like 2016 or went to a Final Four. We'll never know. So the tournament success hasn't been there. Yes, we have won 3 Big Ten titles since 2015, which is great, but haven't competed for a Big Ten title in 3 years now. All our hope is on next year's recruiting class, so I hope they can live up to the hype. As nice as Hauser and Hoggard are as players, they didn't win anything, so I'm not sure why they are so loved. So there you have it. I mean, I think that's a lot of great points by Matthew, and a lot of other listeners and viewers have chimed in with the same remarks, and a lot of them aren't even opinions, really. Like, there's just patent facts, kind of like just what Matthew laid out there. I mean, one Sweet 16 run since 2015. Yes, you had the trio of Big Ten titles, but not anywhere remotely close to a title since Cassius's last season. So let's just go back step by step, and we'll address the points. I'll disagree with some, I'll agree with others, and kind of maybe leave some just an open-ended conversation. So he starts it, we've made it to the Sweet 16 once since 2015. 2019 was great, but we can't have one run in 8 years for a program like MSU. Hard agree there. There's definitely a faction of the fan base that is not thrilled with the last 3 years and calling other people, not weak fans, but watered down fans. Like, your expectations have been lost in the last 3 years, and maybe I'm a prisoner of that. But hey, I digress. Let's move forward. Spare me the 2020 takes. They could have lost in the first round, just like 2016, or went to a Final Four, so we'll never know. And that is a fact. Like, we will never know. It is the greatest what if in Michigan State basketball history. The team was rolling at the end of the season. And look, if they go to a Final Four, if they win the national title, or heck, even just make it to a Sweet 16, maybe, emails like this aren't sent as high of a volume as they are. But then again, okay, you'll lose in the first round, you lose in the second round. Oh boy, okay, the fan base is a little more irritated than they already are right now. But just to lend some stats, I guess some context. Let's say Michigan State was a 2 seed in that tournament in 2020. 9 times a 2 seed has lost to a 15 seed. Don't need to remind you that Michigan State was one of those 9 teams, but 39 times a 2 seed has made it to the Final Four. So it is way more likely for a 2 seed to go to the Final Four than it is to lose in the first weekend. And also there were some bracketologies, hey, this is what the tournament would have looked like if Selection Sunday happened. There were some that had Michigan State as a 3 seed for that tournament in 2020. 22 times a 14 seed has beaten a 3 seed, but only 19 times has a 3 seed gone to the Final Four. So it's actually more likely, if you're a 3 seed, stats say, or history says, that you lose in the first round, more likely you do than go to the Final Four. So let's go to the second point here. Yes, we have won 3 Big Ten titles since 2015, which is great, but haven't competed for a Big Ten title in 3 years now. When it comes to making a deep run in March, that is actually pretty indicative of what Michigan State can do because, hey, Tom Izzo, he's been to 8 Final Fours. In 6 of those years, Michigan State has won the regular season Big Ten title. So, yes, it is more common for Michigan State to win the Big Ten regular season, storm off to the Final Four, than it is to have an underwhelming year, let's say, and then, hey, out of nowhere, go to a Final Four. And really, there's been only one instance of that when it has been kind of an underwhelming year. You do finish in the middle pack of the Big Ten, and that was 2015. But then again, hey, let me humor you. 2015 did have the group of Trice, Dawson, Forbes, Costello, Valentine. 5 guys that were either seniors or juniors. And the other time that they did not win the Big Ten regular season title but went to a Final Four was in 2005. But, hey, second place in the Big Ten. So it wasn't any bad season or underwhelming season. Still a solid season. But in that Final Four run, 6 of the top 7 players were juniors or seniors. Right now, okay, this is kind of where I go with the veteran leadership here, that Hogard, Hauser, Walker, and Hall, that's 4 guys that can possibly put a team on their shoulders. So, yes, while it is, more likely that, Tom Izzo can go to a Final Four after a Big Ten title, I mean, the pieces are there. That's why I keep saying, I can see it happening. Again, we're going to have to wait for Selection Sunday in a few weeks from now when I really pencil in Michigan State to an Elite 8 or a Final Four or something like that. But that's what I have for that one. And he also writes in, that's right, all our hope is on next year's recruiting class, so I hope they can live up to the hype. Now it's my turn. To be the bucket of cold water here on this conversation, because a lot of people are saying this. Heck, I've said it. I'm excited about next year. I'm thrilled about next season. And yeah, it sucks that that's what we have to rely on, just next year. But I do want to lend caution to putting the hype in the freshmen. I'm optimistic of next year because of just the guys returning. If you get Malik Hall back, AJ Hogard, Tyson Walker, if he comes back, maybe even Joey Hauser, who, little known fact, actually can come back next year. We'll see if he does want to come back for a 13th year of college, but I digress. You also get Aikens coming back. Kohler's another year older. Trayvon Holman's another year old. For me, it's the 2.0 version of this team because I don't know how much of an impact these freshmen are going to have. Let's just look at the top 5 classes in the recruiting rankings for last year and see how I'm doing this year. Duke? They had, 7 kids in the top 50 or something like that, and they are not having a good season. They are kind of where MSU is at right now. They're gunning for that 8-7 seed. Arkansas, they had the 2nd best class last year. They're currently 9th in the SEC. Now, Alabama had the 3rd best class. And actually, yeah, they're looking pretty good. Helps when you have a guy like Brandon Miller on your team. Kansas, look, they're doing fine. They had the fourth best recruiting class. They just snapped a 3-game losing streak, but they're also captained by junior Jalen Wilson. So you do need the upperclassmen to get some work done. And then Kentucky was the 5th-rated class last year, and oh my God, we all know how that's going so far. So yes, I do agree with there's a lot of hope in next year's class and hoping that the recruiting class can live up to the hype. But look, Booker, I do have a little bit of pause on. I think he is a 2-year guy. And I know that's crazy to say about a top 10 recruit. I think his rating is based on ceiling and not on floor. Jeremy Fears, I think the world of. I think he's going to be an awesome player. Might not see the court a ton if he has to play behind Trayvon Holloman, AJ Hogarth, Tyson Walker even. And then, look, Cohen Carr and Garrick Norman can impact, but at the end of the day, they're true freshmen. So at the end of the email, let's get to this really quick. As nice as Hauser and Hogarth are as players, they don't win anything, so I'm not sure why they're so loved. That's where I jumped out of my chair at that email. I was like, well, hold on. What? Hauser and Hogarth slander. And that's true. Like, they haven't really won anything to their credit. And no, it's not like last year were any sterling years for these guys. But look, Joey has won one thing as a Spartan, and that is the battle against himself. Last year, it was not going well. Very well documented how not well it was going. But then at the end of the year, you saw glimpses of the player he can be. No glimpse bigger than his game against Davidson when they needed him the most. He's had big games this year against Wisconsin, Indiana, and Kentucky. So, yeah, I know that, no, they haven't won all Big Ten or anything like that or won a Big Ten title, but Joey Hauser is a different player than he was last year, just like AJ Hogarth. Just more of the captain of this team. It has that dog attitude if I could talk, that dog attitude to him. Nailed it. 12 points, 6 assists, 80% from the line. He has improved as a player just mentally and physically. So there you have it. But again, on top of everything with Matt's email that he sends in, yeah, Michigan State is a little too reliant on long 2-pointers. That could be an Achilles heel in March. Their front court, oh yeah, that's right, that old thing, the center position, close to non-existent. So if you get a matchup against a team that has a good center, then, well, thanks for playing. We'll see ya. So there you have it. But no, thank you again, Matt, for sending that email. I thought that was really well written. Covered a lot of points that a lot of people have, and happy to address it because, well, hey, in this week off between games, and what better time to argue that Michigan State can make a deep March run than, just 2 days after getting slaughtered at Mackey Arena. So yeah, of course we're going to talk about it. So there we go. We're going to switch up the football here in a hot second, but first, you need to talk your ear off about FanDuel Sports. That's right, gang. We're talking, that's the wrong button there. We're talking about the #1 sports book in America. That's right. And we got the most American event coming up, the Super Bowl. And this year, the only app you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We are really excited about our new partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sports book in America. It's FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, well, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel now so you can bet on Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. And FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spread, who will score a touchdown, some other great props going into the Super Bowl. And it's safe, secure, super easy to use, and best of all, you get paid instantly. You are not waiting around for days at a time with FanDuel. You get the cash in your pocket ASAP. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockdown to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockdown. Make every moment matter more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And before diving into some football talk, hey, speaking of football, Locked On is heading to the Senior Bowl. That's right. Get inside analysis from the hosts that cover the NFL's next generation in college and find out which NFL draft boards these players will be climbing all in one location. Subscribe to Locked On NFL Draft for nightly live shows from the Senior Bowl on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, so we got signing day coming up on Wednesday, and if you want more expansive coverage on this, last week, we talked with John Garcia Jr. of Sports Illustrated. He broke everything down. Excellent, because he's just the best in the business. But really quick, here's a small little primer. There are 2 players that are on the radar for Michigan State going into Wednesday signing day. And the first is the biggest name out there, Chimdy Onoh. You may have heard us talking about him in episodes not too long ago because this is a late riser. Just recruiting-wise, you might know his story. Old Dominion commit, absolutely blew up his senior year. Kind of figured out that there are better things than Old Dominion. No disrespect to the Monarchs, but there are different options for me out there that are Power 5 football. And Michigan State, Penn State, and Ole Miss are the three teams that are hot in pursuit over Chimdy Onoh, the four-star. Projects to be an offensive tackle, can play offensive guard, but tackle, four-star offensive tackle out of Maryland. Now, what would this mean if Chimdy Onoh commits to Michigan State? Hey, obviously, good thing. Another four-star. It's already a record-breaking season with most four stars added in a class. Just keep racking that up. But specifically for the offensive line room, what would this mean? Right now, Michigan State with Cole Dellinger, Stanton Rommel, Keyshawn Blackstock have 3 commits for next year's class that are rated inside the top 500 players per the 24/7 Sports Composite. That's right, the composite, they take ratings from, 24/7 Sports, On3, ESPN, Rivals, of course, and they boil it all together to see what the consensus composite is. All 3 Michigan State's offensive linemen committed for 2023 are in the top 500. There are only 13 schools in the country that can say that they have 3 offensive linemen all rated in the top 500. And if Chimdy Onoh commits on Wednesday, if he picks the good guys, that's right, the team in green and white, Michigan State would just be one of 4 schools with 4 offensive linemen in the top 500 players. Ohio State also has 4, and Notre Dame and Alabama each have 5 offensive linemen, all rated in the top 500. About time Alabama get a break around here. Good for them. That's awesome. But yes, this would be elite company Michigan State would be in with their offensive line recruiting should Chimdy Onoh commit. Actually, let's go back and talk about that composite score as well. So they rate them all. Let's say you're an 87. Okay, that's a 3-star status. If you're a 90, that's 4-star. 92, it's a 4-star. If you're all the way up to like 97, that's 5-star. So it's kind of like grades. The higher you are, the higher of a star you are going to be. Michigan State's average offensive lineman ranking would be 90-36. That's right, a .9036. And that's really good for your average amongst 4 offensive linemen to be scoring that. As a matter of fact, since 2016, Michigan State has gotten just 2 offensive linemen that are rated over that average of 90-36. Devontae Dobbs in 2019, he was a mega recruit. No one has forgotten that. And then Kevin Jarvis as well in 2017, he was in the 91 range. So this would be it's not hyperbole, a historic class for offensive linemen should Chimdy Onoh commit. It already is a really solid class even without him, but if he hops aboard, okay, Coach Cap, you gotta, tip your cap to him. That pun was intended. Sorry, I understand if anyone just turned the podcast or YouTube show off after that one, but we move forward. Philipp Davis is the other name to look out for on Wednesday. Talked a lot about him with John Garcia last week. He is the 6'1" defensive back from Florida. Late riser, of course. Right now, he's got a lot of group of 5 offers. Toledo is the one that is hottest after him. But when the big boy like Michigan State comes in, us State fans can probably expect to land his commitment. And hey, why not? Diamond in the rough sort of kid. And Michigan State doesn't have a lot of scholarship allotment left on their little spreadsheet. Maybe I think only 4 spots left, maybe 5 spots left. And you can use springers. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but I like using it on this kid that blew up kind of at the end of his senior year down in Florida. He had 2 interceptions in the state title game. He's a long, rangy kid. See if you can develop him. Just use one of those scholarships as a gamble in the second signing period and get that diamond in the rough. I do like that more maybe than using them on spring transfers, because when you're transferring in the spring, it's probably because you know where you stand in the depth chart. So you're kind of shopping around for, other depth pieces. I don't think you're going to find a day 1 starter in spring transfer portal. And if you do, okay, then you're one of the lucky ones. But yeah, and Michigan State also got a lot of depth pieces with their early transfer portal window as well. So it looks like they're good on depth. I'm sure they will continue to use them in spring, but if you got one that you want to use on a kid that you feel good about gambling on, okay, yeah, go throw it at Philipp Davis and see if he wants to commit. And other football news as well, we're going to go down to Texas because Dave Warner has retired after 2 seasons down at UTEP. And that got me thinking, where are all of the other coaches from the 2019 staff after the famous rearranging of the deck chairs on the Titanic after that really underwhelming 2018 season? Didn't fire not a single soul, and hey, let's just give everyone new name badges, new desk plates, and see where it falls. And it fell in the Pinstripe Bowl, another kind of underwhelming season. But yes, Dave Warner, after 2 seasons at UTEP, he is retired. He's the second of the 10 coaches to be retired. Jim Bowman, he's also out of there as well. And by out of there, I mean out of the game of football. So just to fly around really quick, Mike Tressel, he's the defensive coordinator at Wisconsin, followed Luke Fickell up there. Brad Salem, the old offensive coordinator, now doing tight ends coaching at Memphis. Chuck Bola, not an assistant coach, but at a good program. He's down at LSU, senior defensive analyst in Baton Rouge. Ron Burton, he is Miami of Ohio defensive line coach. Paul Haynes, Wisconsin secondary coach. Terrence Samuel, he was at Syracuse for a little bit. Now he's at Kansas coaching wide receivers. And then last but not least, Mark Staten, Toledo offensive line coach. I'm sorry, no, there is one more. Don Treadwell, Arkansas Pine Bluff interim head coach. Also the offensive coordinator. Not sure if that head coach title will stick in this offseason, but there you have it. So it's 2 retired guys. 1 guy's an analyst, and then 3 are Power 5 assistants. So I was just curious. That's not meant to prove a point, although you could probably figure out that, okay, that means that the coaching staff maybe just wasn't that great to begin with. If you only have 3 guys that are Power 5 and one of them is at Kansas, yeah, I guess I can't slander Kansas too much. They at least made a bowl game this year, but you get my point. So there you have it. In case you were really wondering what Chuck Bola was up to these days. We got you covered at Locked on Spartans. Now, we're going to end in a festive mood right here, because on this Monday that we are recording, Tom Izzo, that's right, the icon, he turned 68 today. Happy birthday, Tom Izzo. And we are going to round up to 68 with a series of stats here. We're going to start with 24 straight tournaments. That's right. Michigan State, one of 3 teams to have a 2-decade-plus run in March Madness, with Kansas and Gonzaga just being the others. Michigan State is, of course, sandwiched between Gonzaga and Kansas. They have the second longest active streak in the country. So that's 24 right there. We're going to add 8 onto that. 8 Final Fours, the most of any active head coach. Jim Boeheim, right behind him, he's got 5. So by right behind him, I mean you're still 3 away for the next closest guy. And then Rick Pitino, also 5 as well. And John Calipari, Bill Self, great coaches in their regard. They just have 4 each. So you're going to have to add up Coach Cal and Bill Self, their Final Fours, to equal what Tom Izzo has. So right now, okay, we're at 32. We're going to add 10 more onto that. That's 10 Big Ten regular season titles, more than every other active head coach in the Big Ten combined. All right, Matt Painter, Greg Gard, Juwan Howard, Brad Underwood combined, they have 7 Big Ten regular season titles to their name. And also, if you didn't know that 10 was a pretty good number to begin with, just for one guy, 10 Big Ten titles is more than 7 Big Ten programs have in their history. That's right, Nebraska, Rutgers, Penn State, Maryland, Northwestern, Minnesota, Iowa. None of them have 10 Big Ten regular season titles in their history. So there you have it. We are at 42 now. We're going to add 6 more on top of that. That's Big Ten tournament championships. That's the most of any program. That's right. So now we are at 48. On top of that, we're going to add 16 more. All right. We are going to add 16 more. That is 16 McDonald's All-Americans recruited by Tom Izzo. It starts with Mateen Cleaves, Jason Richardson, Zach Randolph, Marcus Taylor, Kelvin Tolbert, one of my favorite as a kid growing up, Paul Davis, Keith Appling, Brandon Dawson, Gary Harris, Devontae Davis, Miles Bridges, Josh Langford, Jaron Jackson, Max Christie, Jeremy Fears, and Xavier Booker. That is 16 Burger Boys brought into Michigan State by Tom Izzo. Now we are at 64. Okay. He's also one mean accordion player. That's right. If you've ever seen the Tom Izzo Christmas shows down at Reno's, that's always a delight, seeing him absolutely crank the accordion. So yes, one mean accordion player. He's got one Basketball Hall of Fame enshrinement. And of course, who can forget one national title back in the year of our Lord 2000? And as we sit at 67 right now, what is going to be number 68? One school coached for. That's right. Tom Izzo has coached for one school. We all know this. That is the fourth longest tenured guy in the country, still actively coaching, behind Jim Boeheim, Greg Kampe over at Oakland, and then Ron Cottrell at Houston Baptist. And let's not take this man for granted. I know we started this show naming off a bunch of stats of things that haven't gone right in the last few years. But how about all those stats right there? Let's not forget how fortunate we are to have Tom Izzo at the helm here. And I swear I'm not just buttering him up on his birthday, but also, yes, his time is maybe running out soon. It could be anywhere from 2 years to, okay, who are we kidding? It could be 22 years. This man has got the energy of a stallion when it comes to coaching basketball. But hey, let's also look around the country of what happens when a storied basketball coach steps away. Nike tried to give John Shire as many All-Americans, as many 4-stars and 5-stars as they possibly could in his first year at Duke. Okay, he's just trying to tread water and get a top 7 seed in March Madness right now. All right, Roy Williams steps away from North Carolina. Amazing first year. Amazing first year in the new regime, but we're also doing a lot of backpedaling right now as well. And then Villanova, they are in the same boat as Michigan, as just hoping that they can host an NIT game at this point. So yeah, again, it has not been a great last few years, but the recruiting is at a good spot, and also everything before that. Let's not take it for granted. I know it's a long time ago, and you don't want to hear this right now, maybe coming off of a 16-point loss at Purdue, but it's probably going to be okay. All right, we'll see what happens this March, but next year, with all the guys coming back, with that recruiting class coming back, and also the 2024 recruiting class possibly getting started on a hot note, yes, Tom Izzo, we're thankful you are here. No birthday gift for you, Tom. Sorry, other than the last 8 minutes, which I'm sure hopefully was the best 8 minutes of your day. Probably not, but hey, I'm 100% certain that he listened, and thank you for everyone else that listened this far. Wow, you guys are incredibly bored over there if you've listened this far to this episode. But no, really, on a serious note, thank you so much for giving us a listen every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We're going to be joined tomorrow by Connor Muldowney of Spartan Shadows. We're just going to riff it up, bebop around. It'll be a lot of topics hit tomorrow with him. And then on signing day, as well with Stephen Brooks, we're going to do a full recap show with him, and then working on a few guests for later in the week. But if you ever want to reach out, lockedonspartans@gmail.com is the place to find us. Again, thank you so much for giving us a listen. Your team every single day. Now let's go enjoy the rest of the week. Love you all. Go Green.